Okay, we're gonna try this again. So I apologize for those of you who saw the live just a second ago. Little snafu. I hope that I did this right. Hello, Junior. So we are live, I believe. If you could let me know whether you see me and you can hear me, that would be lovely. So whoever is watching, if you could stick that in the comments. Hello, Debbie. Thank you. All right. So I think we're probably good. If you don't mind just letting me know that you can hear me, that would be fabulous. I'm not sure if I could change it if you can't, but we will try. So I'm gonna give everybody just a second to come back in here. You are live. Hello, all looks good. Thanks, Debbie. All right, and can you hear me? Because the very first video, I think I checked something to allow Facebook to use my microphone, and then this time I didn't do it. So hopefully it saved that setting. Perfect, awesome, thanks, Debbie. All right, so, my hair looks crazy. So we are here live. Thank you so much for being here. If you are new to Big Dog Mom, I am Stephanie, AKA Big Dog Mom. You can see a couple of big dogs behind me here. So the furthest away, I don't know if I can get out of the way here, is Junior. And then this is Sally. So like I said, if you are new here to Big Dog Mom, I basically have a blog and a brand that is dedicated to large and giant breed dogs. And so I feel, my mission is really to provide information and resources to big dog owners, and so that they can feel empowered to take better care of their big dogs. And so that's essentially what Big Dog Mom is. What we are going to be talking about today is dog nail trimming and essentially the tools of the trade. So I published a blog post on Wednesday that is a much more comprehensive look at the tools that you could potentially be using in your dog nail trimming. So just today, I'm just going to give you a quick visual. I think this should be pretty quick, and then I am here to answer any questions that you might have about these tools, anything else that you're using. I've got a couple of questions that I wanted to ask and get some feedback on. So if that's okay with you, we'll go ahead and get started. One other point, I did put the link in the description, but if you haven't done so already, make sure you download your free tool guide, which is just essentially, the list. It's a comprehensive resource guide covering everything I'm going to talk about today, and then some. So if you want to download that free guide, just go to bigdogmom.com/dog nails tool guide, and that's plural, dog nails tool guide. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to just kind of start with the most basic tool. My hair just is really bothering me. So I'm going to talk about just the most basic tool first, and then we'll kind of work up to those that I feel might be a little more for the advanced folks out there. And if you are just, you have lots of dogs and you have been cutting nails for a long period of time, then a lot of this might be a little basic for you. But I'm here to answer any questions, so hopefully you'll gain value from this session, just even in the Q&A and the discussion. Okay, so first of all, and I will mention one other thing, sorry to skip around. This isn't going to be kind of a demo or a tutorial, so if you're looking for that, definitely stay tuned to Big Dog Mom. That is my ultimate goal, is to help you with a step-by-step method that I have proven and that is successful to basically move your dog from wherever they are today to absolutely loving getting their nails trimmed. So, so stick with me, even if this today seems a little basic. All right, so let's get started. So hopefully, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to see everything I'm going to show here. All right, so the first tool I have is just a traditional nail clipper. So this is the scissor style nail clipper. There are basically two different styles of clippers. Hey Tracy, thanks for joining. Hey Jen, thank you so much for joining, guys. All right, so this is just a traditional nail clipper. I'm gonna kind of show you really close. So this one is a Miller's Forge is the name of it. That's the brand name. And this is the only brand that I actually recommend as far as these nail clippers go. I think I've owned this particular clipper for maybe 20 years, maybe more. I have had it literally forever. And actually, I think I got this one before they now have a guard on. They manufacture them with a guard on it. This one doesn't even have a guard. So, but there is a lock there that kind of keeps it locked, but it's a scissor style. So essentially the nail goes in and you clip like that. And as long as you keep the blade pretty sharp, it should make clean cuts. I will tell you in the full blog post, I go through a full list of pros and cons to each of these tools. Hey, Allison, thanks for joining. So definitely look at that blog post. That's going to give you a lot more than what I'm doing today. But essentially, as I see it, and I'm interested in comments, the pros and cons to something like this for a large or giant breed dog, sort of the pros, it's simple. I mean, you don't need a book, the For Dummies book with a nail clipper. It's pretty basic and pretty self-explanatory. I will say there is a little bit involved with the technique so that you're not pinching the nail. I have heard some people say that can cause some discomfort. I've never really noticed it with my dogs. I've never noticed whether if I hold it like this and clip the nail or I hold it upright and clip the nail, that it causes any discomfort to them. But I will also say I am not one that will stick a bunch of the nail in. I don't know if you can see this. Of course, I'm not going to clip. But I'm not one that sticks the nail all the way in and clips in one big chunk. I prefer when I use a nail clipper to clip little tiny pieces all the way around the nail so that it basically rounds it out as best you can. So instead of like a Dremel where you're in one touch, you're kind of smoothing the nail and rounding it, with a clipper, you end up having to do many more cuts in order to achieve that same round edge on the nail. The other benefit of doing kind of my method with cutting is that basically you prevent the chance of you hitting the quick. And so when you do just one fell swoop, you take a giant chunk off of the nail. I call that kind of the clip and pray method. And literally I will do that and then clip and just kind of close my eyes. And it takes a lot of strength to clip this if you're dealing with a giant breed dog. But I call that the clip and pray method. And that is you're praying as you're clipping that you don't hit the quick, because there's no accuracy or precision there. If you do my method, which is, little tiny cuts around the nail, then you can eventually see the dark part of the quick, and then you can get close to it without clipping it and causing the dog to bleed. So that's the clipper, pretty basic. If you have any questions about that, certainly let me know. All right, so moving on. So this is a Dremel, and this is the Dremel Micro. We'll try to turn it like that so everybody can see. Hopefully you can see that. So this is the Dremel Micro. And essentially I think there are other versions of this. I prefer this one, but because it's cordless, makes it super easy. It's very lightweight. And you just put your bit on the top, whatever your preferred bit is. It has a number of different settings. So this one has 6 different speeds. Well, 5 different speeds. You can raise and lower it, and basically it changes the sound and the speed with which the bit is moving. And so it's automatically set at 15. So as soon as you turn it on, the dogs are going to go crazy when I turn this on. So maybe not. Oh, what's that, June? So basically it's automatically set to 15, but you can raise and lower that. The biggest downside I see to this, number one, obviously it's going to take a lot more in terms of training to get your dog accustomed to the sound of the Dremel, the vibration of the Dremel. There's a little bit more, there's a lot more involved in training a dog to like to have their nails Dremeled. But at the end of the day, I think it's well worth the time and effort to spend in conditioning your dog to a Dremel. There is nothing better than the smooth edge. It's quick and easy once you figure it out and your dog is enjoying it. This is a godsend. So this one is newer to my dogs, and it's the one that I've been developing my online course about. So just because I think it's an easy place for folks to start if they're new to a Dremel. They do have a pet version of this, which I have included in the tool guide that you can download. And I've never used the pet one. This is an official Dremel that is just like for regular people and for projects that you might do at home. But the pet version is probably half the cost. So, I mean, I'd be interested in anybody else's experience. I know there are a couple of folks in the group that I think got the pet version. So I know that it only comes with 2 speeds, which I like the flexibility of being able to raise and lower and change, you know, a little more flexibility in terms of the capability of my Dremel. But like I said, there is a pet version if you wanted to save some money and try that first. I can't speak to how loud it is. And so that would be something I would consider as well, because as I move to the next thing, there is a difference between, sorry, June, I'm totally blocking you from everybody who wants to see you. So when I move to the next one, there is a difference in the sound and feel of a corded Dremel. So this one is the Dremel 4000. What do you see? So this one is a corded Dremel. It's a Dremel 4000. You have lots of flexibility in terms of being able to raise and lower the speed. It actually goes up to 25, I believe, 30. No, 35, yeah. So this one is like a high-powered machine. And so I just love it. I think if you are someone that has been Dremeling for a long time and want something that's got some staying power and some power, I would highly recommend this. The downside to this corded Dremel, and I'll show you what I'm holding on to here in a second. The downside to this one is that it's heavy. So if I actually attached here the Dremel bit, this thing is honking. So if you are smaller or have smaller hands, I can't even get my hand all the way around it. So I highly recommend, if you're gonna go with a corded Dremel, to get the flexible attachment. And this is just a little wand that you hold on to. It's got a little lock there. But essentially you put the bit on the top of this, and then you hold it. And you can see it's perfectly made for, I think, small hands, but it's perfectly made for somebody to have just ultimate precision and accuracy with the flexible attachment. So they do have kits on Amazon that give you the full package with the flex attachment and the corded Dremel. What I will tell you is that this is the one that I was normally using. I mean, I probably used this for 2 years or so. And for developing my online course, which if you are interested, I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But essentially, as I was, doing my filming, for my online course, that's going to teach, step-by-step, exactly, with video. Step 1, you do this. Step 2, you do that. But a step-by-step method for getting your dog to love getting their nails cut. I introduced the boys to the Dremel Micro, which they had not ever seen before. So it's been an interesting experience because the sound and feel is very different. So I will say, as you transition from one tool to the next, you will want to kind of go back and kind of reintroduce and recondition your dog to the difference between each of those tools. Okay, are there any questions? I'm just chatting away. If there are any questions, definitely feel free to put those in the comments. Hey Tracy, thanks for joining. All right, so I'm gonna move on, just a couple more things. So if you do, and this, like I said, I'm not doing a demo. This isn't really gonna go deep in depth on the science of the quick and all of that. But we all know, and I think one of the most common fears of people as they're trimming their dog's nails is cutting the quick. And I think people in general have a deep-seated anxiety over, hitting the quick and making their dog bleed, because there are nerve endings in the nail, as it's in and around that quick. And so if you clip that, it can cause some pain. I will tell you, it is not the end of the world, and I have done it many, many times, because when I trim with my Dremel, I get right up at that quick with every cutting, or with every session. So there are times when I accidentally clip it just a little bit. So if it's a more major cutting into the quick, you will want to have on hand something that will help stop the bleeding. This is, you can see literally how old this is. Let's see if I can, I don't know. It's hard to tell maybe, but this, this is probably the original branding from Quick Stop, but this is just a powder that you can apply to the dog's nail. It's just like a little powder. I don't know if you can see that. Basically, it's benzocaine powder, and it's also called Cystic powder, and that will stop the bleeding. You just kind of touch it to the tip of the nail where it's bleeding, and it stops right away. It's great stuff, which you can see. I think I bought this when I bought my clipper, so maybe 20 plus years ago. So the other alternative to Quick Stop, if you don't have that on hand, is cornstarch works just as good. So if you have cornstarch, you can use that. Flour also works, not as well. I would say I would have cornstarch on hand, or I would just get a small bottle of this. It's super cheap, and you know, I just keep it in the cupboard. Honestly, I don't even get it out when I cut nails. I just, you know, kind of go with the flow, but if I need it, it's here. Okay, and then the last thing is treats. So that would be the only other thing, and I didn't include that in the tool guide, but essentially you just are gonna want treats when you are clipping your dog's nails. I think rewarding and reinforcing basically the exposure and the touch and feel of the Dremel, reinforcing that with food, and we'll go into more kind of this, you know, basically the philosophy of how I train and all of that in the future. But essentially I would just have some treats on hand. I like Ziwi Peak treats. I think they're fantastic, and there's tons of different varieties. This is venison. They also have a food that I use. I actually use that more commonly because it's not as expensive as the small bag of treats. And since I have huge dogs, they would go through this in like a session. So, but they're nice because they're air dried. This is a raw product that's air dried. And so there's very few ingredients. And so, you know, you just use what you want. You don't even have to spend money on treats. I would just use cut up like string cheese or something to that effect. And it, you know, anything works. I would say small little treats are best, and things that they can easily chew. In other words, I wouldn't be giving them large crunchy treats. Not only is that messy, but it's not conducive when you're cutting nails. Okay, so that is basically the rundown of all of the tools that, let me back up. It is not all of it. I don't know what I'm thinking. There are other things that you can use. And so there are some folks in the Big Dog Mom community on Facebook. We have a Facebook group for all of us. So if you are not in there, definitely join. That URL is bigdogmom.com/community. Pretty easy to remember. And if you'd like to join our Facebook group of big dog owners, tons of information and great stuff in there. Definitely join that group. But in the group, I know there are a couple of folks. I think the one lady's name is Lauren, and she uses a scratch board. And so I included this information in my post about nail trimming and the tools and stuff. And so a scratch board is essentially just a board. You can make your own, and I put the link to be able to show you how to make your own scratch board, but it's covered with like a sandpaper. And so you can change the grit of the sandpaper in order to file your dog's nails. So essentially what you would be doing with a scratch board is you would be training your dog to scratch their own paws on the board. So let me just use something. So if this is the board, you would just kind of teach the dog, you know, to scratch on the board. So it takes a lot more, it's a lot more involved. I think, you know, rewarding with like a click and a treat would probably be the most effective method at training a scratch board. I've never done it. I've never used one. And I would say one of the biggest downsides to that is I see it with my dogs and all of the 20 plus years experience cutting dog nails, would be getting all of the nails. I don't know how like the outside nails would get trimmed, and as well, I think it would be more complicated to train the back nails. Most people struggle most with the front paws because they're closest to the head, and so the dog can see what you're doing. So maybe for those that are really sensitive, then the scratch board would be helpful. The other tool would be a file. And I will tell you, I commented in my post about the file being just, I mean, not really what I would say is a great option for big dog owners. And if you type in on Amazon file for dog nails or something, it is comical. I mean, as we have these huge dogs, the files that are used, I can see maybe being great for, you know, very small dogs, Chihuahuas and the little guys. So so I would say that's probably not the best choice. The one product that I linked in my post is more for kind of similar to the Dremel. You would use it around your house. It would be a metal file that you could use for other things. And I suppose you could use that for dog nails. I think the time that it would take to trim your dog's nails with that method, especially if they're very overgrown, would not be efficient whatsoever. I think it would be better to go with the clipper or start to really commit yourself to training for using a Dremel. Okay, so I do have a question for those of you that are here. I would like to know in the comments below, how many of you, and to what extent, are you struggling with just kind of the foundational to trimming your dog's nails, right? You can't be trimming your dog's nails if you can't hold the paw and you can't touch the dog's nails, right? So you can, Sally, you are just unconscious. Let me just see if I can get them to wake up. Hey, Sasa. Hey, hello. So what I want to show you is, so to what extent, and this is my question, so to what extent can you hold your dog's paws, hello, like this, and just hold on to the paw, manipulate the toes? Would your dog, like if you didn't have nail cutting tools or anything around you, could you hold your dog's paw and manipulate the nails and all of that? Could you do that without them pulling their paw back? And so that's basically my question, because I do think it's a little cart before the horse kind of a situation. If we start talking about cutting your dog's nails and you are struggling even with doing that. So I would ask, and the folks that watch this on the replay, please put in the comments below. I would like to know whether or not you struggle with that. I know a lot of folks have, rescue dogs that, they don't know the background of and may have had traumatic experiences with their paws in the past. And so maybe really sensitive to just even touching the paw. So I would love to know that. And I would say, to be perfectly transparent, I am considering doing something to the effect of kind of talking about how you would train and condition your dog to kind of loving having you touch their paws. And you do, don't you, Sel? Yeah. So that's my question. What I will also say is that, one of the things with nail cutting is that, you want to make sure that you, that you are not moving so fast that the dog is afraid. So here's my standard. Let me just boil it down. Junior, here, let's see. Can you see Junior? There. He's just sitting staring. All right, so the one thing I'm gonna I kind of boil it down, and then we're gonna get going here because I know it's Friday and everybody wants to start their weekend. But I'm gonna boil it down. This is my standard, because I think what will happen when people watch this video, they'll say, no, my dog is totally, I can cut his nails. He sits and I can cut his nails. He's not, he's not afraid. But if your dog is pulling their feet away as you're cutting, that means your dog doesn't love having his nails cut. So that's essentially my standard. So if you are able to kind of lay with your dog, sit down with your dog and trim either with a clipper or a Dremel, and the dog isn't pulling his feet away, then that's a dog that I would say probably has no issues and would not need any further training. That we need you to share in the comments below. If that's you, then that's amazing and awesome. But I would say, and I'm maybe taking a leap here and guessing, but my guess is that's not most of you. You just flung slobber everywhere, Sally. Thanks. But that's my guess is that's not most of you, because my hunch, and I talked about this in the post, is that you are either kind of one of two buckets. You either fit into the bucket where the dog is absolutely terrified, and the sight of, can you lay down? The sight of a clipper or a Dremel sends them running into the other room. Or maybe I would say another bucket, and that might be the same bucket or not, but would be somebody that sends their dog to a groomer or a nail or a vet tech to cut their nails. And that, in other words, the dog owner has nothing to do with the nails. And so if that's you, if you fit into that bucket, you know, I would say as long as the groomer or the vet tech is able to cut your dog's nails without force, meaning no constraints, no restraints, nothing to that effect, then that would be a situation I would continue, right? If the dog is otherwise happy and not pulling his feet away, and the dog isn't restrained or forced in any way, then that I would continue. Then again, I would say, I think this is, you are in a perfect spot and that's what you're looking for. The other kind of bucket would be somebody that was me for a long time. And that is somebody that has a dog that will be compliant, wants treats. And the desire to want treats is higher than the fear that they have. But the dog is pulling his feet away constantly, and you're having to really bear down, hold the dog down in order to cut. That is a dog that is terrified and anxious and stressed out. And that is not, that's a dog that I think, and a dog owner that needs help. And so I would just leave you with this, because I know I had just done all the talking. If you guys have any comments or questions, definitely let me know. But what I would say is that what I focus on, and like I said, that was my standard, that the dog is sitting there, not pulling his feet away at all, and just truly loving getting his nails done. That's my standard. And so anything less than that, then I would invite you to join me in this. And so there'll be tons of free content coming, not all about dog nails. Big Dog Mom has tons of other stuff, and I've got tons of other topics coming up. But dog nails is something that, as you can tell, I am passionate about. And so it is something that I would invite you to follow me along and just stay with me if you want to learn more about how to kind of get your dog to that point where he's just really loving, he or she is loving getting his nails done. Then stick with me, because I know that I can help. So 2 links before I go. Number 1, again, if you haven't downloaded the free tool guide, just a list of all the resources. I did include a file and the scratch board, which I don't have to show. And then there's also a guillotine style, which I didn't mention, a clipper, which wouldn't really be for larger dogs. It's more for smaller dogs. So I don't even own one of those. But it has all of the resources and all the links to the stuff that we covered today. You can go to bigdogmom.com/dognails tool guide. And so the link is in the description. And so that's the first place I would welcome you to go. And then the second place would be the waitlist for my online course. I've mentioned it a couple of times, and this is going to be, I think, epic. And I am maybe, overconfident. I don't think so, but it's going to be fantastic. And so for people that want me to kind of hold their hand, metaphorically speaking, obviously virtually, if you want me to hold your hand and give you the step-by-step method, it's a proven method that will actually get your dog from wherever they are today to loving having their nails done, being able to sit with you and you do their nails, no stress, no anxiety, no force. Then stick with me. The URL for that waitlist is bigdogmom.com/waitlist. Pretty simple. So, basically the title, kind of a working title of that course, I'm not totally set on it, is Learn to Trim Dog Nails Like a Pro, the ultimate force-free, step-by-step proven method to achieve perfect paws, and most importantly, a better relationship with your dog in 60 days or less. So how to confidently cut your dog's nails without stress or anxiety. So I would invite you to join me there. There's nothing. It's basically, you sign up for that list. It's free. There's no obligation whatsoever, but it just lets me know that you're interested in, learning more about cutting your dog's nails and that force-free method that I was talking about. So that's all I have today. If you guys have any comments, definitely throw them in the chat, and I will be sure to, after we're done today, I will go through and make sure that I answer any questions that you have. And like I said, just follow bigdogmom.com. I appreciate all of you so much, and hope you have a fabulous weekend. All right, bye for now.